Good morning, sports fans. Welcome to V Sports Nation. Here we have some boxing news. Canelo Alvarez versus Callum Smith is officially finalized for December 19 on DAZN. We're gonna talk about that in this video. So, as we have previously reported a few days ago, Canelo Alvarez, the pound-for-pound king, is set to fight the WBA super middleweight champion of the world, the number one rated super middleweight in the world, Callum Smith. The fight is going to take place on December 19. It's going to be aired by DAZN, and it's going to have the WBA super 168 pounds title on the line. We have also reported that we expect the WBC title to be on the line as well. That hasn't been announced yet, but we still expect such decisions because that's the only thing that makes sense at the moment. We are pretty certain that it's not going to be Avni Yildirim fighting for that belt. It's not going to be Benavidez, who just failed to make weight, and it's not going to be any of those other fighters that are rated by the WBC. It has to be Canelo Alvarez, the WBC franchise middleweight champion of the world, and Callum Smith, the WBA super champion at 168 pounds, also the WBC diamond champion at the 168 pounds. WBC guarantees the rights for either fighter based on their status to challenge for the WBC title, which is vacant at the moment at the super middleweight division. So we expect the WBA, the WBC, the Ring Magazine and the Lineal championship to be on the line for this fight. This is going to be the first fight of Canelo Alvarez this year. Last November 2019, he knocked out Sergey Kovalev. He hasn't fought since because of COVID, also because of his contractual disputes with DAZN, with Golden Boy. He's a free agent right now, but he's gonna be collaborating with DAZN on fight-by-fight basis. As we know at the moment, he might change his mind in the future, but we'll see where he goes from here. Also, Callum Smith, he hasn't been fighting this year as well for the same reason, and he's coming off a victory over John Ryder. Before that, he knocked out Hassan Andam, and before that, he won the World Boxing Super Series, earning the Ring Magazine, Lineal and the WBA Super 168 pounds championship of the world. This fight is going to be for the super middleweight supremacy. It's going to be number one against number two in the division. It's going to have the WBA super belt on the line, the Ring Magazine, the Lineal titles, and it's going to give Canelo Alvarez opportunity to win a legitimate world title, the number one rated world title at the 168 pounds. He has had the WBA regular world title after beating Rocky Fielding a few years back, and now he's fighting for the super championship at super middleweight. Exactly what his haters and detractors were hoping not to happen. That's why they are doing their little campaigns these days, trying to bash Canelo Alvarez for fighting the best guy at 168 pounds. Now they're calling for Caleb Plant, or now they're starting to forget how they were calling for Callum Smith just a year ago when he was about to fight Sergey Kovalev. Everybody was calling for Callum Smith in 168 pounds. Everybody was calling for Charlo. Everybody was calling for a bunch of other names but Sergey Kovalev. Now they're doing the same thing. Now that Canelo is having a chance to finally prove them wrong, to prove that he is the legitimate four weight classes world champion, they don't want that to happen. That's why they made up some guy called Caleb Plant. I mean, we all know Caleb Plant. He's a limited fighter. He's fought nobody, he's beat nobody, and he's gonna lose to a first B plus fighter that he faces. But the haters are not worried about that. They're only using that name to fabricate a narrative of Canelo allegedly avoiding some fighters. Now suddenly we have some narratives claiming that they don't actually want Callum Smith. They want everybody else but Callum Smith. They would like to see Canelo fight Caleb Plant. They would like to see him fight Jermall Charlo, Demetrius Andrade, Beterbiev, Benavidez, you name it. Everybody but Caleb Plant. That's how ridiculous they are these days. Because Canelo is doing what their favorite fighters, what all of those fighters that they're advocating for are not doing. Canelo is fighting the best of the best, fight after fight after fight. And what are their favorite fighters doing? They're fighting non-top 10 fighters after fight after fight after fight, and they are struggling, just as Jermall Charlo is struggling, just as he struggled with Derevyanchenko, just as he struggled with Korobov, arguably lost when life and death with Korobov, who was not even top 20. And just like Caleb Plant, he's gonna fight nobody. He's gonna keep fighting nobodies until he loses to nobody. You will see that's gonna happen. He's never gonna get a Canelo fight. Even if he gets Canelo fight, they're gonna label him as a cherry pick, because he's in reality an easy fight for Canelo. But the chances are he's gonna lose to some nobody before he even gets the chance to fight Canelo. And Jermall Charlo, hashtag Lions on whatever nonsense they're saying, they're just fighting nobodies, hoping they land a Canelo payday, or maybe their devotee fan club are hoping they're not gonna land Canelo fight, because that's the only way they're gonna be able to keep saying what they're saying, that Canelo is avoiding Charlo, because they know the moment they sign that fight, Charlo is gonna be bound for a defeat. He has no chance of beating Canelo. He's not Canelo's level. Imagine if Jermall Charlo moved up and fought Callum Smith. Imagine who the favorite to win that fight would be. Imagine if Jermall Charlo moved up 2 weight classes and fought Sergey Kovalev. Imagine who the favorite to win that fight would be. Exactly. You know it, they know it, everybody knows it, and that's why they keep doing what they're doing, hoping that Charlo doesn't actually fight Canelo. And we should pause and take a look at who's Charlo fought, who's Charlo beat, and how he beat them. His first fight at middleweight was a joke fight against a nobody called Jorge Sebastian Highland, not a top 20 fighter, nobody's ever heard of him, not gonna pay attention to it. Next, Hugo Centeno, another nobody, a guy that lost to Maciej Solecki. Exactly. And then he fought Matvey Korobov, another guy who's not rated in top 20, a guy who got knocked out by Andy Lee years ago, who is in his mid to late 30s, slow, mid-level fighter, not particularly good in anything. He went life and death with Charlo, and they gave Charlo, many people say gift decision, but let's move on. Next, Brendan Adams, non-top 20 fighter, Dennis Hogan, not top 20 fighter, so 2 tomato cans, actually 4 tomato cans back to back to back to back. And then Sergey Derevyanchenko, the only top 10 rated fighter that Charlo's ever fought at middleweight. They went life and death. Charlo struggled, he won a decision. Shocker, no KOs anymore, and those fan club boys are saying that he's gonna KO Canelo. Keep dreaming, that's never ever gonna happen. So like I said, they do not want Charlo, they do not want Caleb Plant to fight Canelo, because they know they will lose, and then they're gonna have to find another quote-unquote boogeyman that Canelo is allegedly avoiding, and they don't want that extra work because it's gonna take them research and everything. And you know, it takes years for somebody to build a resume of tomato cans, so that's not an easy task for anybody. They would have to come up with somebody new, but Canelo's not gonna be too worried about that. He's gonna fight Callum Smith next for the super middleweight supremacy on DAZN on December 19. This was a report by V Sports Nation.